So we're talking about 1148 Remingtons again today. I got a couple of videos out on them, but I've got a kind of a new situation today I want to talk about. You know, I think we've done a video on a 12 gauge. I have a 28 gauge here we're messing with today that we're going to talk about. And I just found out something as I took it apart, and we'll get into that in a little bit. This I consider to be really a bad design on the part of Remington. Is this carrier. You have this button on the side, this is your carrier latch button. Your carrier lays in the receiver, and here is the carrier latch, I should call it. And I took this out of this 28 gauge, and it goes in the receiver in the right side, kind of like so. Then you have a button, and you push the button. This one I just took apart had a little different of a retaining system for the 28 gauge as compared to the 12 gauge. The 12 gauge is what I call a bad design, and here's why. If you go to take out your carrier latch and your button, which is probably not much reason you ever have to do that, but if you do, this is a blind hole. This is the pin goes right in through here, and you can't drive it through. But on the 12 gauge guns that I've experienced, it's the pin, the carrier latch pin is threaded, and I have this little specialty tool here, little fine threads on it. Actually, it's a 2 by 56. And to take the carrier latch out of a 12 gauge, you screw in this little tool into the pin, twist it, get it locked into the threads, and then pull it out, and you'll pull your carrier latch pin out. And I just did a 28 gauge here, and I got my tool out to remove it. And there's that ringing phone. I just got my specialty tool out to remove this the carrier latch pin, and lo and behold, I see that on this 28 gauge, this hole goes through. So I was able just to drive it out, and that's the way they need to be. That's a much better design than this 12 gauge thing here, where you have to have this. I've been known also to use a 2 by 56 tap. Screw that into this carrier latch pin and pull the tap out. But that's a bad design. They apparently corrected that down the road. So now you just, on 28 gauge I just did, you can drive it right out. Now, I have broke this gun down a little bit to talk about it somewhat today. It's a 28 gauge that came in for a restoration, complete restoration, and it is one of the roughest I have seen in a long time. I'll talk a little bit about taking them down. There's really nothing to pulling a 1148 or a model 48. There's nothing taking them apart. Like I say, I wouldn't take out this carrier latch. There's really no reason to. I have taken them out because we blew them. But to take them apart, you simply take the stock off and push this pin out, and the 12 gauge, 1620s are all the same. Take this pin out, and this holds in the action spring follower, and hang on to it when you take that pin out. It's going to shoot out on you. Take your action spring out and the follower. Now in the kit we do have a new action spring because these do collapse. And when I took it apart, I drove out that pin. I pulled all that out, and here's how I took the bolt out, and it comes out very simple too. I'll put it back in just to kind of show you. The bolt was like so, and has the operating handle that goes in here. Now, once you take out your action spring, your links here on your bolt, they're free and clear, and they'll fall down. You just pull your operating handle out and slide the bolt out forward. But now, this is kind of for your good when you go to put these back together. When I took it apart, the cartridge stop fell out, and these are generally staked into place. This one wasn't, but to put it back in, there's just a trick I use. You don't really have to stake them back in unless you want to. I just lay that cartridge stop back in where it goes. So there it is. It's a little tricky, but there it is. It's in place, kind of. And you have to get it just right. There it is. And then, being as it's not staked, the tail of it will stick out here. Don't worry about that. When you put your trigger plate in, just put the back of it in and hold that cartridge stop in place and roll it in like so, and that'll hold everything in place, and you put your pins in, you're done. So when they come unstaked, it's not a big deal. I don't worry about staking them back in. So there's really nothing simpler to take apart than 1148. They're a good little gun. They shoot halfway forever, but the biggest problem is the springs collapse. And this is one of the roughest ones I think I've ever done, and I'm not even sure I can save this receiver, and I'm pretty good at what I do, but this thing is so deeply, deeply pitted. I don't know if the zoom guy can get in and see those pits in that receiver. It's bad. And it's going to lose all the lettering, but that's okay. I can put that back in. It's just that sometimes I see some of these pits, and I wonder if they don't go halfway through the receiver, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to grind them out without grinding a hole in the receiver. So this is one of the worst I've ever seen. And the same thing on the barrel. It's not bad around the lettering, a few pits, big patch right here. And I'll have to kind of file that out, and that means I'll probably get in the lettering, have to replace lettering on that. But we have kits coming up for the 28 gauge and the 410 gauge. This particular one, the 28 gauge, has a copper plated bushing. It goes in the barrel just like the 12 gauge, which I don't have in front of me. I took it out of this one because the machine shop has these. We're making some new bronze pieces for them. The 28 gauge has that bronze piece, the 410s don't have. And when you put your rebuild kit in, you just stick your bronze piece up into this barrel and it'll stick in there, and that's the way you want it. And we're making up new recoil springs and action springs and magazine springs. These all collapse and go bad, and they need to be replaced. And when you take that gun apart, when you pull your trigger plate out, these things haven't changed in decades. They're simple and they work. You can't blue them because they're alloy, so we're going to gun coat this one or anodize it, whatever we have to do to blacken it up. But you can't throw it in a bluing tank and blue it. So for you guys out there, there's really no need to take it apart. Once you get it like this, just take it back in and scrub it out good and blow it out, and you're good to go. This one I'll have to tear down just because we're going to blue it. So that's all I wanted to talk about a little bit today about the small bores. The 28s and the 410s. They're good little guns. They shoot halfway forever. Lightweight, and the biggest, I rarely ever see a broken part in them. This is the problem right here. The springs collapse in them. So in our kit will be the springs, and you'll have a follower, an action spring follower. Usually enclose a 3-shot plug with it. But that's kind of the lowdown on the small bore 28s and 410s, and that's what we want to talk about a little bit today.